Hello again, coming back from my car. I'm deciding this is quite great. I like filming in my car quite a bit, and the sound seems to be better depending on how I'm doing it. So I'm working on that. I know that my last short definitely had some sound issues, but I wanted to come back. So I filmed my first podcast this morning. It's much longer content. I still plan to post to YouTube just as often as I am, if not more. But I did go ahead and launch a podcast that I'm pretty excited about. So it is currently only on Spotify under Unleashing Happiness by Cecilia Hendricks. So you can find me there the same way that you would find me on YouTube. I'm really excited about the content that I put out this morning, even though, shocker, of course, there I am also having some sound problems, so it's not the best. I do have a different setup that I'll be using moving forward, so if the sound bothers you, know that this episode will be the only one that sounds like that. It just seems like something was like getting picked up. I was trying to use my microphone, and I use old school headphones. I like the ones that plug in, but I think it was like picking up kind of some parts of my shirt or something. But so anyways, I wanted to share that. And then I also wanted to touch a bit on what I talked about there. And one of the things that I'm coming back to a lot is your identity with yourself, your beliefs, and then also your habits that form around that. And I kind of had this moment where I was like, if I was going to explain this in the best way possible, the way that I would say it is that because I identify as a mother, there are habits and actions that I take each day because that's how I identify. So I do things for my children. I have actions of my behaviors that are because I'm a mom, right? So like I will go, out of my way to check on my kids. I may, make sure that they have a lunch available or that I buy their favorite drink at the grocery store. These are habits and actions that are happening because of my identity. So if I turn around then and identify myself like a specific person is a very good example in the type of community that I'm probably talking to, and the one that I spoke to a lot on Reddit. If I identify myself as someone yearning for a specific person and not able, like I've identified that as a need in my life, that I cannot find happiness without having that external piece personified for me, that is actually the actions that I'm taking. That's my belief. Those are the habits that I'm creating. That's the identity that I'm putting out, which means that's what's going to continue for me, and I'm going to continue in a cycle. Whereas if I identify as someone who loves themselves and is working on themselves and making myself my own specific person, my actions around that are going to be very different. I'm going to do things because I want to show up for myself. And the greatest part, and this is something that I think is really hard to grasp, is that when you start doing that switch, all this external stuff starts falling into line for you, and in amazing ways. So another example that I would use is that if I identify as someone who is poor and always struggling for money, my habits and my actions are going to reflect that. So when I wake up in the morning, I may automatically be stressed out about money. If I, and it's not even about like not spending the money, but you don't have to spend it to be stressed out about it. I could spend my mornings automatically starting with like, oh my gosh, I, don't have anything. I'm so stressed out. I need to check my bank and I need to figure out a way to make $5 and I can't do this and I can't do that. That's your identity. If you're someone who is relaxed about money and you know that money is coming in and it's always flowing towards you and you've got business ventures and this great job and everything's going well for you, your habits and the way that you behave and the actions that you naturally take in life are different. So I really want you to stop and consider, what are some ways that you behave that you don't think about, and the way that those actually tie back to your identity. So if you're a parent, What are things that you do in an everyday life that you don't even think about because it's so ingrained in your identity that it's just what you do? And then start to kind of build that out a little bit more. Be a little bit more considerate about the way that you're identifying yourself. And you'll start to see that the natural actions that you take are completely tied to your identity. Your identity is tied to the beliefs that you have about yourself. The beliefs that you have about yourself are the thoughts that you continue to think. They're the areas that you continue to dwell in. This, though, is going to be true whether you are following some sort of manifest spiritual type of role or path, or if you're looking at it from a neurological, that's not the right word, but I don't know now how to say the word. If you're looking at it from the way that our minds work, I can't believe, I literally can't figure out how to say that word, but neurological way. So it's all going to be the same answer. The way that you identify is being shown in the actions, in the daily unthought of habits that you have in life. If I consider myself an avid reader, which if you haven't picked up yet, I do. So if I consider myself an avid reader, there's natural actions that I take every day, like looking for new books, reading a book, sitting down and wanting a new book. I love bookmarks, etc. Everything around books. That's because I identify as a reader. That's the way it is. My husband identifies as a movie buff. So he is always like watching trailers and he loves to see new movies and he spits out movie quotes all the time. That's because that's how he identifies. This is a natural behavior that ties with his identity. So I hope that makes sense. I feel like I rambled a little bit and I struggled with some of the English language. But I really suggest that you sit and you think, okay, what are some behaviors that I can definitely tie back to my identity? And then be honest with yourself. What are some behaviors that you're doing that you don't really want to continue with? And how are those tying back to your identity? And it'll start to uncover some of these like beliefs that you may not be fully conscious that you have of yourself. So until next time, definitely hold still with me while I work on my sound stuff. I promise that I'm aware of it and I'm going to fix it, especially on the podcast. Again, if you want to follow me on Instagram, it's Unleashing Happiness Podcast. That channel is just getting going. It doesn't really have a lot on it, but I would love to see you over there. Definitely email me, unleashinghappiness@ceciliahendricks.com. I have the website, ceciliahendricks.com, and now officially have my podcast on Spotify, which is Unleashing Happiness. So first episode has been published. I will be publishing to that every Friday. So I look forward to seeing you. I look forward to hearing from you, and we'll talk soon.